since he wore purple all the time, could we legally call him the Grapist?
That's why everyone going with the Mephisto theories. I was like,
I'm gay.
I don't mean to like push back on my first appearance on the podcast. God, I'm gonna get fired from this group so hard.
Constantly, that's just the
That's
entirety
right.
of his miniseries, Sloping for Issue.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Happy 616th Marvel Family. Today we have quite a full house, and we're going to be talking quite a lot. It's going to be a lot of conversations. I am your host, the Funny Hatter, and figuratively to my left, I have one of you
the
guys.
X-Men
There you
has
go.
returned once more.
Figuratively to my right, we have. Jesus Christ.
The Invisible Man, it's me, Christopher. Hello.
The Invisible Man who is not Sam Neill, it's the other guy. Okay, you guys just introduce yourself. Valiant, you go first, and then Kori, you can go next.
Yeah, sure. Hi, I am Valiant Shadow. They're holding me here at gunpoint.
Yes. Wait,
Hi,
Save the
I'm
line and
Kori.
take the money.
Take the money.
Subscribe to Audio Anomaly on YouTube. Do it, please.
You forgot to say like!
And like and subscribe to Audio Anomaly on YouTube, please.
Comment too if you wish to learn more.
Oh yeah, comment for the algorithm, or Galactus will come down and consume the planet. It's all I need.
Watch the audio.
watch it.
Don't listen to it. Just watch it. Just watch the stills.
You
on
have
the
to look at the screen. No audio at all. Just turn down your volume.
Just enjoy the thumbnail for a while.
It'll be programmed into your mind.
Somebody worked really hard on that thumbnail. I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
My name is Kori. I'm trans and a woman, and therefore I don't know what comics are.
fake fan.
I'm just here. Yeah, I'm a fake fan.
Fake, yeah, like one of those those quote-unquote fans of the new Lord of the Rings show.
Oof.
Yeah. I didn't know.
They definitely read all of the books. I
Oh
can tell.
yeah. There were never black people in Middle Earth. I'm gonna write an entire rant about it on Parlor. I don't know.
What the hell is Parlor?
Middle always means white.
Black people cannot exist in fiction,
I forbid it.
Okay, in today's topic, we are going to be talking about whether it's a good idea. Cinematic universes. Ideas? Good ideas. Bad ideas. I had a better title for this. Is it a good idea for cinematic universes? I keep forgetting to do this. So to stall for time, everybody's going to sing
wheel.
a different song at the same time as I set up the Wheel of Fortune. 3, 2, 1, sing!
You won't get a song out of me, either, man.
Jane!
What? I didn't say stop!
Unlike them, I did not fold to your demand.
You are stronger than all of us.
I will die on my own 2 feet with my head held high.
Don't worry.
I
we have
will
more
not.
than one Okay, so the wheel is set up and we're going to spin the Wheel of Fortune to see who gets to talk first about their opinions on whether or not it's a good idea to have a cinematic universe, or just in general, whatever you want to talk about when relating to the topic. Anyway, the wheel is spinning. The wheel is going fast. I can't see these names. They're going everywhere. I can't see. Look at that. My favorite person of the day is going to be Me!
Oh my god.
This happened last time too. Last time I was here.
You're right.
Rigged!
Oh my god. We gotta investigate this.
I'm not gonna say rigged here, okay? But I am gonna say rigged. So, the reason why I brought up this topic today is because I have recently received the privilege of viewing Sony's Morbius.
Oh, yep.
Ooh.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Cinema.
I'm
So-
sorry.
I know, it's okay.
My condolences.
It's not your fault. So,
Doesn't matter, I won't get the VOD.
This actually happened completely by accident. You see, I went to the movie theater. And I paid for a ticket for the Batman. You see, and once I did that, as I was making my way over to the Batman,
they mixed it up. You know, you went for a bat-themed movie, so
Yeah,
they just assumed that you'd go for the most handsome one. So,
Oh, yeah, of course.
Quite.
So actually, here, listen to the rest of the story. So I paid for I did pay for a ticket for the Batman, but as I made my way over to the movie theater room, I accidentally tripped and stumbled for some reason all the way into the Morbius one, and I figured, well, since I'm here now, I might as well just watch the movie. I mean, I paid for a ticket for a movie, so might as well just watch the movie. So I sit myself down with the ticket of the Batman in my pocket. I sit there and I watch the movie, and although I'm not going to spoil anything, I still don't recommend watching it at the theater. I honestly don't think Sony deserves the money. If you want to watch another Sony movie, go watch Spider-Man: No Way Home, because that's still in theaters. I actually thought I thought it'd be funny if I actually.
It is?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was fun. I went over there.
Crazy.
Yeah, like right across from the theater where Morbius was, it was still like Spider-Man. I'm like, huh, that's weird. That's
That's insane.
But people were still paying to see it, so might as well, right? So as I watched the movie, at the end of the movie, of course, everyone's brainwashed at this point. Like you sit down, you watch a Marvel movie, you don't get up and leave once the credits roll. You just don't do it. It's the law now, okay?
Strap yourself in.
Exactly.
Literally. It's like,
So,
grab your
in the
straps, tie yourself up.
There's no escape.
It's too late at this point. So at the end of the movie, it does reveal that Morbius is tied to the multiverse ever since Loki and Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, and I want to say Scarlet Witch. I think they're just keeping that vague for the moment. But since the multiverse is
The
now
WandaVision was just sort of implied.
yeah, it was implied at best. But since the multiverse is now upon us, it is confirmed that Morbius is a part of the multiverse. Is he part of the MCU? No. But he is he is interacting with other other universes that interact with the one that we focus on in the MCU. Now, after watching these scenes, because there are literally two scenes, post-credit scenes that relate,
Oh my god.
that are the same thing. I don't know why they split it up.
Yeah.
But it does break continuity of how things played out, because it does involve Doctor Strange's spell from Spider-Man No Way Home, and it does mess with continuity of which characters go where and how they get there.
Which isn't exactly new, because we talked about this in
Yeah.
our Venom episode. Like, Sony's been repeating this now, basically.
Oh yeah, they definitely have, and it's getting so frustratingly annoying that they're not paying attention. It's like, oh, let's just throw in Venom because people want to see Venom with Spider-Man, or throw in Morbius because people know that Morbius is related to Spider-Man, blah, 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 blah. But since...
Spider-Man's fifth uncle.
So, I figured we talk about if it's a good idea to go for cinematic universes, because I've noticed lately that ever since Marvel started doing it with Paramount back in the day, it's only been a couple of years, is it really something to shoot for? Because everybody's doing it. Like, they're doing it with DC. They've been doing it with Warner Brothers has been doing it with the MonsterVerse with Godzilla and King Kong, and who else has been doing it? It seems like everybody wants a piece of the pie now.
Oh yeah. Like even like it's split into like TV series too, like Squid Game. Like
Sony is doing it again with Sonic the Hedgehog and video game characters. So.
The Family Guy cinematic universe, my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because there have been cinematic universes like long before the MCU. I think just people haven't been paying attention to them as much, because I know that Universal tried doing that again with their movie monsters. But the thing is, back in the day, like, and I mean back in the day, like they actually had a whole universe. It's just like I don't think it was as popular as it was and like how it is today, because
these weren't as prevalent back then.
Yeah, because they had movies back then to where it was a crossover, like the Wolfman versus Dracula, or like the Mummy versus like the Creature of the Black Lagoon, or the Wolfman, or whatever. But like they had like that cinematic universe. They even had like.
No, here's the thing.
Yes?
Do you think that what caused that to come to like more prevalence, not necessarily more prevalence, but do you think that the reason that people so readily like accepted the MCU was because all of like the pre-MCU movies, like the Raimi Spider-Man films and the X-Men films and all of that started to come out, and everybody wanted them to be in the same universe, and then the MCU came out, they were like, look, we finally have it, it's here.
That's a really good question. I'm actually glad that you asked that, because now that I think about it, like I remember when I was a kid, I was getting so tired of like seeing like solo superhero movies, like personally, because it's like I started like reading the comic books after like you watch the movies, because you get inspired to like read and learn more about the characters. And then it's like, oh, Spider-Man like knows Iron Man, he knows Thor, he knows the Hulk, and like everybody loves the Hulk. It's like, so why aren't these like characters coming together? It's like, what's going on here? And like after that, and I think that's a really good point. Like after Iron Man came out and like they confirmed like, oh, we're gonna be making an Avengers movie. What? I think that's what got everybody aboard. So it's definitely a possibility, because they have like so many like X-Men movies back then, Spider-Man, and trying to do more of the Hulk and other properties, and like, but they're all on, except for like X-Men, they're all on like their own. So which is weird too, because I hear some people like now like talk about like, oh, why don't they just make solo like superhero movies again, to where like their own part of their own universe. Is like, well, what's the point of that? That's what they've been doing like for the first couple of years in like the early 2000s.
Well, but I think if I could just interject here, I think that part of the problem there is, you know, you got to remember Raimi's Spider-Man was like 20 years ago, give or take. Yeah. So like I think you know, that's like a whole generation in terms of the kind of content that people come to appreciate. So I think it's a couple of things. I think on one hand, people talk about superhero fatigue. I don't think we're looking at superhero fatigue. I think we're looking at like fatigue in the sense of you can only watch the same basic plot lines so many times before you're kind of checked the hell out. And like, what's the big meme, right? That Marvel movies tend to end with the big light in the sky, you know, and the whole thing, you know?
Specifically, a big blue light in the sky.
Exactly. And there are
exceptions. Oh my god, No
but
Way Home didn't break that formula. Oh my god.
Right? Yes, exactly. So, like, yeah, it is. There are exceptions, but the meme exists for a reason. Yeah, and I think that's what people are getting a little sick of. And I think maybe we're moving in a place where people are like, I'd like to see these, like, smaller scale, like, singular character focused movies, because I've had my fill of these big crossover epic superhero brawls. I don't know if this is making sense. I'm trying. I'm really trying.
Absolutely.
I think that makes far more sense than the superhero fatigue statement, because that has always been a tired one, like always compared to the westerns of old, or you know, like monster movies, or you know, like older genres that are not as prevalent today. But like, while those do have an expiration date on like the time period, because eventually, you know, he stopped living in a wooden house in the desert as well, and like in the old western, so it stopped being hashtag relatable. While superheroes, you know, it constantly does evolve with the times. Yeah, both in the medium it originates from and in adaptation.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, Valiant. I'm on the same boat too, where I want to see more solo superhero movies, but the thing is, I don't want to see it to where they're in their own universe, especially when the source material shows that they have crossed over with other characters that are very interesting. And I can understand like how people don't want to see like I don't know like Spider-Man like with Doctor Strange all the time or like be with Iron Man all the time and like to where he has just his own adventure, but like to separate it from everything else, I think that's just a big missed opportunity because the thing that bugs me about it is like they treat like whenever you have a superhero that's in his or her own universe, right? They treat him like Spider-Man when he's like in the Raimi trilogy. They treat him like he's Superman. Because Superman, I believe, like he convinces me that he can carry his own universe, where he can take care of everything because he's Superman, right? He can take care of like almost everything. Spider-Man, as mighty as he is, can't take care of everything by himself. But they treat him like he's Superman, or even Batman too, to where like he's the only superhero in the entire world when there's like a plethora of villains that they tackle like every other episode. So
see, I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, though. I don't mean to like push back on my first appearance on the podcast. God, I'm gonna get fired from this group so hard. But I don't know that I find anything inherently wrong with that, especially when we're talking about Marvel characters, right? Because I'm gonna get real pretentious here for a second. I'm sorry in advance. So the big thing has always been that the DC heroes, right? Those are more mythological inherently. Those are they're the apex. They're I can't think of the term, but they're like gods. Like even Batman, right? They're like gods. When you look at the Marvel universe, generally, I feel like we've gotten away with this a little bit, away from this a little bit in the post-MCU world with like the Avengers. But generally, for the longest time, when you thought of the Marvel universe compared to the DC universe, the Marvel characters were more down to earth. They were more human characters. And so you would have inherently more human-focused or like character pieces. They were much more concentrated on a singular central character, and they're more relatable, adventures and what have you. I don't know that we lose anything necessarily by having them not cross over with these other characters, because I think when I go to see a film about a character, I'm going to see the adventures of that character. Like, it might be cool to see, like, I don't know, the Hulk show up in a Spider-Man movie, I guess. But when I go to see a Spider-Man movie, I want to see a Spider-Man movie. I'm not really there because I can't wait to see who else pops up in this, because I'm not going to see an Avengers film. I'm going to see a Spider-Man movie. I want to see Peter Parker doing Peter Parker things. And when the going gets tough, he puts on the red and blue suit, starts throwing out some quick quips and some webs and saving the day, and whatever. Yes. I don't know.
I feel personally, my thing about that is, though I agree with a lot of it, I feel like my personal experience with Marvel versus DC is that it's harder for me to see DC as like multiple cities where multiple superheroes are running around. It doesn't feel as lived in because they tend to focus on like one specific team, where it's like, oh, here's the Bat Family, here's a Bat Family comic, oh, here's Nightwing, he's in a totally different city than Batman or whatever. But because Marvel tends to focus on one state, the one specific part of that state most of the time, you get this feeling that it's a bit more lived in. Like whenever I read any Spider-Man comic that doesn't have any other superhero in it, I can very easily imagine that somewhere in New York, like Wolverine is just walking around going to bars, or like Iron Man is flying around somewhere, just kind of like testing out a suit above the city, whatever. But with like the early pre-MCU films, I don't really get that. Like, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, like, but all three of them, they kind of give me the same feeling I get when I play the games, which is like this empty, like, world. Beyond New York, nothing exists. No one else is there.
Video game invisible walls keeping you from entering Canada.
I cannot go to Canada. Canada doesn't exist in Raimi universe.
When we go to Canada, please.
But it's I feel like the Raimi movies would have benefited more from like little references other than like people, not like people popping up, but like the joke that Jonah makes about Doctor Strange. If they had made more like references like that, like it would have felt a bit more lived in. But I actually think that like those earlier movies kind of feel less like Marvel movies, at least to me, by extension of not feeling like there's anything else going on in the world around Spider-Man. Or like the Hulk or the X-Men. But yeah, that's just my take on it as somebody who played Ultimate Alliance every day as a kid.
I loved that game. I love that game.
Same.
Where's the episode about classic superhero games?
Oh,
like we
that's
gotta
a great
add
idea.
that.
Ooh.
We'll get to that eventually.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have to come on and start talking about the PS1 Spider-Man game.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
yes.
Reno Romano was a great Spider-Man. I just
he
have to
was.
say that. I love his voice. But
Yes.
the problem with all those references is that inevitably a whole bunch of fans are going to take that and run with it a country mile and be like, so when is Darkhawk gonna show up in the you put a reference in there, does that mean he's coming? Darkhawk's coming.
Darkhawk.
Like
Yeah, I mean,
there's 2 Darkhawk fans. Calm down.
that has always been a fair point, but I would point to it, like, no Darkhawk fan is going to, like, boycott ticket sales if he's not going to appear in, like, the next Iron Man film or something.
I
mean, I would.
think those kinds of
Not gonna,
references
like,
will
start
make
a
people want to
protest.
read the comics. It's like, oh, there's this guy called there's this guy called God, what's his name? The dude with the big fucking wheel that he just gets in and
Big
rides.
wheel.
Big wheel.
That's his actual name.
That
Oh my
is,
god.
yeah.
Yes.
It's one of
He's
the best
like-
Spider-Man villains in all of Marvel comics.
Easily.
It's like, oh, there's this guy called Big Wheel that's like mentioned by name but not shown in like the first Raimi movie. How about I go pick up a comic with Big
Please.
Wheel in it?
Yes,
you want
please.
to hear a real existential nightmare? Imagine being such a tool that your arch nemesis is Big Wheel. Can you
Oh my god.
imagine? Like,
Oh my god.
Now that
I mean,
you
I'd
mention
roll
that-
with it and just name myself the Screwdriver.
You know, now that you mention it, I really want to see a death battle by Screw Attack of Big Wheel versus Kite Man from Batman.
Oh my
Kite
god.
Man,
win.
hell yeah.
Yeah.
Kite Man has the catchphrase.
Oh yeah.
He does.
Kite Man is the greatest anti-villain in the DC universe.
It's true.
Mhm.
It's true.
I have, if I ever, hand to God, if I ever get a chance to write for DC, and they're like, Mr. Boslinski, what character would you like to write for? I would look like, Dan DiDio's not with them anymore. Who's in charge? It doesn't matter. Whoever's in charge, I'm gonna look them in the face. I'm gonna say, Kite Man, and they're gonna be like, I'm sorry, what? And I'm gonna be like, Kite Man, and they'll be like,
Oh,
are
you'd be
you
talking to
serious?
Jim Lee.
Yeah, Jim Lee. Well, Jim Lee doesn't actually do anything. Are you kidding? What? Wait, no.
Anyone who has to work with modern Frank Miller
Yeah.
Oh,
is
I would
not
out
in charge.
of a
Oh.
building. I don't know. I wouldn't know what to do.
Oh.
I'd be like, ew.
No, but I have long wanted to write this story where Kite Man just becomes a really street level, like, vigilante, like, on his block. Like, I want to do like that early plot from Hawkeye, the Fraction run, where
Oh.
he's like presiding over an apartment building.
Yes.
I want to do something like that for Kite Man.
Oh,
where like
please,
maybe
yes.
he gets released and he's like put into this like apartment complex that's set aside for ex-cons. And so he like, it's a whole bunch of people that like Gotham is kind of forgotten and let get shunted to the wayside. And Charlie starts like befriending these people and they're all down on their luck and trying to make good. And then like some kind of shenanigans happen. Maybe there's like some gang activity, right? Like something Kite Man could believably handle if he stepped up. And step up he does. You might even say that he takes flight. And
But I like the idea of a Kite Man comic where he's like Daredevilified, like he becomes like super serious, like the comic opens up, he walks into like a confession booth, he just looks to the side, he goes, "Forgive me, Father, I am Kite Man."
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, I mean, Charlie. First of all, his name is Charlie Brown. Second of all, his son died under the most horrific circumstances imaginable. So if anyone has a reason to be like dark and brooding,
It's
It's Kite Man.
It's freaking Kite Man.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
I kind of hope that they touch upon that in the Harley Quinn show. I mean, I know that recently that
Yeah,
he like
yeah.
decides not to get married to Poison Ivy, but I think it'd be like funny if like they touch back up on it. It's like because they mentioned that he had like pretty much basically like abusive parents. And so I think it'd be funny if like they come back and then like Poison Ivy like she goes on like a rant on Kite Man, but then she like finds out that his son died and that's why he basically became a supervillain. He's like, oh my god, what am I doing?
What have I done?
I am.
What
the bad
have
guy.
I done?
I am the bad guy here. Oh no. like she like calls him like a what is it? She calls him a loser, and it starts like the whole flashback to like that's what my ex-wife used to call me. She used to tell my son that about me before he died. She's like,
Oh,
oh no.
No.
Okay, we're gonna reel it back a bit. We got off topic.
Yeah.
Very much
Really.
so.
So this is not the Kite Man podcast. Oh no.
Oh man,
This
that's
isn't the
Tuesday
Kite Man.
actually.
On our next cheat day, you can come and your character can be
Oh
Kite Man.
please, yes.
Yes!
do.
Damn,
Yeah,
Do it,
that's
do
your
it,
entire
if you will.
Kite Man pitch then.
Please, yes.
The audio anomaly coup where it just becomes Kite Man anomaly.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that actually.
All future audio dramas will be about Kite Man. in fact.
Yes. Let's do it. Let's make it happen.
The nightmare of Kite Man.
Okay, so back on multiverses, you guys brought up a lot of good points. But I just find it weird that I don't know, and like I was gonna say before, like when we were talking about like how superheroes like interacting like with one another, and you have like your solo superheroes, like in a much bigger universe, and where like you were saying like Iron Man's like testing his suit, or Wolverine's going to a bar, or like Daredevil's like in court defending someone. Although like I can understand like how people like could find that to be a turnoff. I just find it to be like a really big turnoff when they're in their own solo movies in their own universe, and there's like only like this very limited amount of like superpowered beings being like say like Spider-Man, and like I don't know, like the next villain's gonna be like Electro, and there's apparently nobody else. And as you mentioned before, like where it focuses like on one state, it just seems weird to me, like when you have like solo superheroes in their own universe in that state, because it just feels like to me like the universe is just very small. Like this doesn't happen anywhere else. Like granted, in the MCU they focus like a lot on New York because that's where Stan Lee grew up and like worked and whatnot, but they do also try like their best to like move their locations, like say like California or China or Norway, in certain areas. Like they've gotten to the point to where they've gotten and like to different areas and like save the day in like different cities. I would think that the biggest problem is that every other big superhero movie is like always having to save the world, which I feel like gets repetitive. Which I would think that the solo movies would like do best, like just save like a city, or just like save like a neighborhood. Like I don't know, have like a Luke Cage movie to where like he just like defends Harlem or something like that, or like he unites people to like come together or something like that. But I think that would be like the biggest problem with a cinematic universe, is to where they're always having to up in the level of like the big threat of like what's coming, because like every Thor movie, it's like he has to save either like the 9 realms, or he's got to save like just one planet like the entire time. He's like, okay, yeah, this is getting repetitive, but
It's not like Thor could save one block, really,
True.
compared to everyone else.
if anything, he'd end up destroying a block.
Yeah, that's true.
But
I, oh father, have sought to save this mortal block. The block.
The mortal block.
He's my
The mortal
son.
block.
The
No, no,
block.
it's like a space where mortals congregate.
I must save New York subway.
Yes. I know what I'll do. I'll hit it with my hammer. Like,
No.
He,
Well,
confuses,
definitely
he
my
confuses
son.
like he confuses like the New York like sub-transit system for the fucking restaurant. I must save Subway.
Yeah, he just defends one chain of restaurants.
Champion of the 9 subways.
I thought the subway was Morbius's job from what I saw in the trailer.
Oh my God.
all I'm thinking of now is Thor zipping around, as drawn by Jack Kirby, but with a subway visor on.
Donald Blake's
Welcome to
Subway
Subway.
sandwich maker by day, God of Thunder by night.
Yeah,
Oh
sounds
my
rad. Yeah, Odin was like, remember, son, how I wanted you to learn humility, and I made you a handicapped doctor and all that. Actually, to add to your humiliation, I'm going to make you work for crap pay in crap conditions, and you get to be yelled at by entitled customers all day long.
My son, you must learn to listen, and you must learn to be organized. Here is
If they ever retry Ultimate Comics, they should do that
They
as
should.
Donald Blake's story.
Please.
It's that he is now a subway.
Unironically, I think
for
that's
my
pretty
son,
great.
you must work
Yes.
at a McDonald's.
You could have Donald Blake be like a really depressed, like young guy with a disability, like working a crap job, and just his life is dead end, and there's no point to anything. Like he's miserable, and he's just like everything sucks, everything's awful, and it's like, I'm actually the God Thunder. Everything is amazing.
Oh, that would be so good. Oh.
Cinematic universes.
Cinematic universe.
Possibilities
The
are
Subway
endless.
cinematic universe.
Just make
Oh.
it like Moon Knight to where people find out that they're actually secretly superheroes.
Yeah. No, I mean, I like that concept. I have my misgivings about the movie.
Wasn't that
This is
basically just
not the-
the Marvel discourse?
Yeah,
Let's get mad at
okay.
Moon Knight. Let's change the topic. Moon Knight.
Oh no! Let's save that for later.
Oh.
I feel like
I'm
Chris
putting
has
it in the
written-
box, and I'm
I feel like Chris
blocking
is-
the T.
Chris has written a better representation
Ah,
of Moon Knight
no,
in the
no,
show.
no.
That's
No,
all
no,
I'm
no,
saying.
no.
Okay, now we're moving on.
No. Mine's bad.
So I'm gonna give up my turn because I ended up taking a lot more time than I thought. I didn't have a good argument, but I will say that I think that cinematic universes are a good idea, but you definitely need somebody who is at the wheel and makes sure that they're paying a lot of attention to the continuity. Because it is a very big project, especially when it starts expanding with more characters that are introduced into your universes, especially if you're going to be making movies, TV shows, spin-offs, and whatnot. So I'm going to pass on the talking stick to my least favorite person, who is going to be decided by the Wheel of Torture. So if you're a masochist, get ready.
Oh, I'm ready.
My time has come.
Damn. I'm learning a lot about the people around me today.
And my least favorite person of the day is going to be, oh no, it's Valiant!
Oh no!
Sorry.
Oh God! All right. I have thoughts and opinions. No, it's fine.
Assume the position.
To the surprise of absolutely no one, I love to talk. Okay. It's a complicated issue. I prefer solo movies. I will say.
Get out!
I didn't know. All right, fine. Screw all of you. I'm going. No, Chris, get somebody else to play like 5 different characters at once.
All right. Let's see what
I'm
we're
done. I
have
wash
to
my
take
hands
up-
of all of
I
you.
have to take up the Ghost Rider reign.
No, so I like just to give you like background, right? I remember when I watched the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie. Spider-Man's my all-time favorite superhero.
Yes.
I'm
Wait,
kind of sad.
what?
I'm kind of sad. I'm not doing the Spider-Man audio drama. Let me tell you. But
Trust me, I am too.
I'm gonna find whoever's playing our Spider-Man and just lovingly push them off a cliff and be like, I have the power. No, I'm sure they're wonderful.
Mufasa's dying.
But anyway,
live the spider.
yes, the itsy bitsy spider goes down the spout. All right, Spider-Man's my all-time favorite superhero. When the Raimi film was coming out, I was young enough to have like a Harry Potter calendar at the time. What was that? Like 2001. So yeah, I would have been like really young, like 10 or 11, I think. And I wrote, when it was announced that Spider-Man had started filming in New York City, I wrote that shit down on my calendar. Like I just wrote it on my calendar.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
The entire calendar just is Spider-Man.
Yeah, I was so hyped. And so when I saw it, I was ranting and raving about that movie for like a couple of years. I was so ecstatic with it. At the time, nowhere did it appeal to me, the idea of like, oh, what if they made other superhero movies like in the same universe? I was a kid, but I was reading tons of comics at the time, not just Spider-Man. He was just my favorite. But I was like, that's cool. I just want to see more Spider-Man stuff. like to me, when you bring in these other characters, no, I think references can be cool. I just think the problem with references is that it inevitably leads to, like I said before, fans clamoring like, when's this character exists in the universe? When are they going to show up? But putting
that's a real. I'm sorry.
In my opinion,
no,
you can just
go
ignore
ahead.
them.
Yeah. Well, you can ignore them until such time as fans start clamoring, and then studios get ideas, and
Oh yeah, they will. But
I think
it's a good point that you brought that up, because if you see like the difference between like comic books and like movies, I think like people just aren't used to the idea of characters having like the spotlight, especially if they haven't been highlighted like into the mainstream. Like say like how Moon Knight is like kind of like pretty popular now because he has his own show on Disney Plus. But back in the day, like everybody's like, who the fuck is Moon Knight?
Exactly.
But if you're reading the comic books, it's like that's like normal. It's like, oh hey, that's Moon Knight. It's like, hey, he's doing something. And
Well,
it's like,
to
but you don't
be
expect
fair-
to have like his own series because it's a comic book.
To be fair, even in the comics, like people who have like met Moon Knight are like, who the fuck is Moon Knight?
Well, that's the thing. I was thinking about this the other day, actually. The idea of Moon Knight being this kind of like D-list hero, because I was watching like an episode of Game Grumps where they brought that up, and I was like, wait, D-list? What the fuck? Wait.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Well, if you're a Moon Knight fan, you're really a Moon Knight fan. So to you, like Moon Knight is a big deal. But it's easy to forget that in the Marvel universe, they're like they're either
Moon
like,
Knight is A-list in my heart.
well, they're either like, who the fuck is Moon Knight, or they're like, Moon Knight. I'm going to be anywhere but there. Thank you. Holy shit! Did you hear about the thing with the guy with the face? Oh my god.
He doesn't have a face anymore.
Yeah, woo! That man cut a man's face off and put it on a statue and prayed to it like a lunatic. I'm done. But yeah, no, I just like singing. I think the problem with this topic is that if you like cinematic universes, it's gonna boil down to, I like seeing characters interact and I like seeing the world pop off. And then the counter argument to that is going to just be like, I like singular character focused stories, right? Like the more characters you throw into the mix, characters who by their own right could command solo experiences, they're going to dilute if it's a Spider-Man movie and you throw Iron Man into the mix, I feel like it inherently can't just be a Spider-Man movie. Is the point I'm getting at, and I feel like that's a problem you're going to run into every time. You can't just have a cameo. It like completely shifts the dynamic of the movie, because all these characters are big enough for their own stories in their own right. And if you're into that's cool. But
that's a good point, because like once you start advertising that, people are gonna think, oh, it's a Spider-Man and Iron Man movie, because Iron Man's like been so
At
popular.
least how terribly, Sony has advertised it.
Oh my god, they have bad advertising. No, they do it on purpose but it's so scummy.
Yeah.
I do want to say on the other side of the coin, though, I feel like when you're like watching, at least this is how it was with me, when I was watching like the Raimi movies, the fact that there were no other superheroes running around kind of broke my immersion, because I was just like, you're not going to tell me that he is the only guy who had this happen to him ever, who isn't a supervillain.
Jeez,
Especially
like
now
all the radioactive, accidents that happen in all these labs, Spider-Man and his enemies
only
are
one.
like the only ones.
Yeah, it's only
Uh,
these specific people who specifically interact in this specific section of New York City. Like,
Especially now in the comics.
In the
Especially
Raimi
now in
movies,
the
it was a
comics.
genetically engineered super spider. I just want to remind everybody of that. It was
Yeah,
it was
they
not
did the
radioactive.
Ultimate Comics thing even back in 2002, and they did it
Yes.
since.
Yes.
But yeah, especially like in the comics, like nowadays, like they're trying to like make any excuse to like make like a new Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
They're repeating the process of like how Peter Parker got his powers, but it's like gonna be in Miles Morales or Gwen Stacy or Cindy Moon. But yeah, I completely see the point of what you're talking about.
I just feel bad for all the scientists who are making these spiders,
Oh my
because
God,
it's
yeah.
like,
They're like,
man,
you know,
we
we're
have
just trying
to
to.
spend all this time with like genetic engineering, and then all these teenagers just get accidentally bit like every
Fucking
single
teenagers,
time.
man, come on.
I was
or if
just
you're
trying to
Miguel
cure
O'Hara,
cancer.
you are the scientist and you gave yourself powers.
Yeah.
Miguel is
True.
kind of the only one that had the
Yeah.
process done right.
Well, no, technically, Miguel did not intend to give himself powers.
Well, so, yeah, he was. Yeah, somebody else technically did. If you think
Yeah.
about it.
And then Miguel
Yeah, true.
accidentally threw him off a building. It was great.
Whoops.
Saying like Miguel had the process that those scientists from the main Marvel universe probably wanted. Like,
My boy Miguel O'Hara.
Oh, what a legend.
Yeah, we don't. In my mind, we don't need all these extra Spider-Men. We just need like more love to Miguel.
We need more.
Alright,
Miguel,
bring-
really.
I think
Yeah.
Miguel needs to be the main Spider-Man permanently forever, and every
Oh,
other
forever.
superhero can go hang.
Oh, now we're gonna fight. All right, here we
No,
go.
no.
Put him up. Put him up.
I
oh,
can't.
man.
I'm a writer. I have skinny arms.
I'm a writer, and I do not
Then
have
you have
skinny
skinny
arms.
arms.
Oh, no.
No, actually, I am a trained sword fighter, so I have
Oh,
like
no.
forearms like you wouldn't believe.
But, yeah, I'm gonna die then. Just do it. I don't
No.
care. I can't fight that.
Now he's just gonna fling himself, like his entire body onto Kori. He's like, here, catch.
Good luck making Fantastic Four now, fuckers.
Listen. If Marvel can't do it successfully, then you don't get to either.
If I can't do it, nobody can. And flings himself.
Because when everyone's super, no
one
will be.
Yeah, maybe that's what all these solo universes are. It's just Syndrome getting his way.
all of these cinematic universes are just offshoots of the Incredibles.
Let's just do it, man. Let's do like Spider-Man meets the Incredibles.
Oh my
That would
God.
be
No, that would
Kind
be really good. That's a really good fit, though.
Yup. No, we should unironically do that for the channel. That should be an audio drama.
It'd be like an April Fool's thing that we do. That's like absolutely dead serious.
Oh,
Well,
God.
the
We're
true
gonna have
April
to-
the true April Fools is that you think it's an April Fools, and then it comes out and it's
It
an
just keeps on
absolute
going.
banger.
Yeah, but also it's also like really dark, like Dash like fucking dies. Like,
It's just Peter like mentoring Violet, and unlike Hope Summers, she actually listens. And
Oh.
is like, oh, this is rad, actually. This guy's kind of a dork, but I like him.
it
Like-
should be called the night Bob Parr died, and he just gets thrown
Oh
off
my-
the Brooklyn Bridge.
Watch, Violet's gonna gain a crush on Spider-Man, and every time that she starts drinking liquid, you have to find like an area to where she spits it out her nose.
Oh, God.
Anytime, no, she needs to have like a crush on Peter Parker and not know that it's Spider-Man at
Oh,
all.
my
Oh my
Peter
god.
Oh.
starts
So
randomly
it's like I
turning
think I
into
trust you
Salad.
enough to finally reveal my identity. Takes off mask and
What
she, like explodes.
And then she's like so happy though. She's like, best of both worlds.
She wasn't even drinking water when it happens. She just has water in her nose that just explodes.
Just
She's not
apropos
even
of,
drinking water. She just.
apropos of nothing. Just did anybody read the second issue of the X-Men Devil's Reign? tie-in? Did anybody read that?
I'm not super caught up
no.
on comics. I'm like,
Okay,
I'm like
all
10
right.
years behind.
Okay, now everyone here but me is a fake fan. I
I already
disvalue all.
established this. I am trans
Here
and
on
a
that
woman.
one.
That means you're immune from criticism. So actually, I take back all the no.
You're
I-
transphobic.
Yeah, right. I have committed the cardinal sin. No, it's really cool. There's a really great moment between of all people, Spider-Man and Emma Frost. It's she reads his mind and she like sees his origin story and is like immediately heartbroken and has a real human moment.
Oh,
And
wait,
it's-
yeah.
It's pretty rad. It's
Yeah.
pretty rad.
It's-
Yeah. The context in the story is there's like this big scuffle going on with like hitmen trying to take out a witness, a little girl, and Emma Frost like screams for help, just assuming a superhero will show up to act as a distraction while they leave. And then because Emma Frost is a cynical woman, she's like, I assume this man wants something out of all this, so I'm going to read his mind to find out what his deal is. And in the face of the unrelenting force of actual good and kindness and selflessness that is Peter Parker, she's like, oh, I got nothing. I have no snark here. Crap.
Oh,
And it's
no.
it's cool. It's cool. It's,
Oh,
that's
it's a cool
awesome.
moment. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really cool. Sorry.
Anyway, we got off topic again.
It's my fault.
And-
It's my fault.
Elliot, what is your opinion, pointing the gun closer, on the cinematic universe?
Ask who's to read that transcript out loud.
I think those notes
I mean,
were in
like-
parentheses, dude. What are you doing? No,
It'd be like
I.
Kathleen Kennedy, where it's like pan left, and like she just, and then she just stuck in there like in an awkward silence.
Yeah.
I to do the TLDR of my final thoughts. Before I'm never invited back on the podcast again. I think I like the idea of cinematic universes. I no longer trust anyone to handle them well.
Ooh.
Not even the MCU. So I think that if I had to make a choice, I would prefer solo movies or very focused movies that like movie series that from the jump focus on a very core set of characters. And I'm not really interested in seeing a ton of interaction in between because while it sounds like a cool idea on paper, I feel like in the long run it's ultimately detrimental to larger stories and just not what I want to read or watch.
So, quick question, quick answer. So, why don't you trust studios to make cinematic universes then?
Because I feel like they're not creativity is not their primary concern. They're always going to be motivated by money, and it's going to be the thought is going to be money first, narrative justification and and consequences second. And I think you can see that just in the shameless way that every other goddamn studio under the sun wants to make a cinematic universe these days.
True.
It's all about the money, not about
Yeah,
these
oh,
characters,
absolutely.
what they mean, what they represent, and what you could best do with them. It's just about how many action figures can we cram together on screen and crash into one another.
Okay. No, that's a very good point. That's a very. It definitely feels like that. I'm like, once you like break away the immersion of like, wow, these heroes are coming together to be the Avengers. It's like, look at the toy sales. Like, oh yeah, that's right.
To be fair, that'll happen with the solo movies too. Just
Yeah,
quarter
that's
as much,
true,
but
that's true.
it's all about the money, no matter where you go in terms of directions. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Valiant. You have some very insightful points of the cinematic universes. Very much appreciated. Even if you don't like Spider-Man with other Spider-Man, that's okay.
I go home
hey.
to my family now.
Never.
Damn it.
I have other uses for you.
All right, I'll stick around.
Okay, so we're gonna go back to the wheel, and we're gonna find out who gets to speak next.
Ooh.
And hopefully you'll have a different opinion. Otherwise, we're just gonna put you in the category of either me or Valiant. I'm kidding.
Ooh. Contest of champions, guys. Let's go.
Oh, let's do it.
Victor, congratulations! You get to speak next. Now speak. Gun goes closer to fate. Oh, damn it! I did it again.
Yeah, you gotta stop reading those.
Oh.
I'm sorry. I was trained by Kathleen Kennedy to read scripts.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it on a different point when it comes to these cinematic universes. More going back to the original segue, I suppose, that started this off. On the Morbius points.
Ooh.
What Sony has been doing and what they think can be done to the cinematic universe. Because for starters, a cinematic universe is going to go on forever if it is successful.
Oh yeah.
Marvel Cinematic Universe is going to continue until it decides to end. And whether people have changed their minds about how it works or not, of this was my stopping point at Endgame, or the Eternal sector, Thor: The Dark World sector, any of these different things. There's so much course correcting done that it will always succeed. That being said, whether it succeeds or not is not different than an inevitable failure, which is that the operations of all of these players are human. And they will forget some material, odds are, that is connected to this thing. Whether it is TV shows, or in the latest expansion of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, other universes, those self-contained worlds that previously existed. As much as people like to say that Sam Raimi's Spider-Man is in its own completely separate world from reality, that does not matter anymore, because now it is in the MCU and all of their players are marketable MCU characters now.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh yeah, ooh, it's all under the umbrella now. Damn.
It really is.
Yeah. Same thing with whatever Sinister Six franchise Sony was trying to start up with the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. It doesn't matter. All those players are part of the MCU now.
I recently saw a meme where it shows the Captain Phillips meme, where he's look at me, I am the captain now. But in this context, it's a Spider-Man from 2002. And he's looking at Iron Man from 2008. And he's look at me, I'm the first MCU movie now.
The worst part is that's going to keep on going, and Sony wants to use that.
Then the trial of the Incredible Hulk, all that, yeah.
Yeah, it is, and it's something that Sony is definitely using in order for their own attempt of a cinematic universe to basically just leech off of the MCU and their own profits by going, see that person from the MCU, that person exists with this other thing that we're doing right now. Buy our movies, please. And and that's also the troubling thing that even existed for cinematic universes before the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Even in terms of what Marvel did with that, with their animated stuff back in the day, when they would tie into each other. It always, with a cinematic universe where there is just starting foundations and implied elements, you never know what's truly a tie-in or what's just, this character is appearing for the first time in this separate universe or not. It's sometimes it could be the voice actor or the actor reappearing as the same character twice. Steve Blum is Wolverine, of course. Steve Blum Wolverine might be the same as this Steve Blum Wolverine. And same thing, of course, now with Michael Keaton as the Vulture. Of course, for Morbius, there's all that confusion with the trailer and now with the film itself. And oh no, is it Michael Keaton Vulture from the MCU, or is it just some new Michael Keaton Vulture. And like they can use it however they fit. It just matters that it ties into the MCU in some way. Like they don't care what Michael Keaton's Vulture does himself, just that he exists with Tom Holland and Robert Downey Jr. and the rest.
Wait, so what you're saying is it devolves into just getting your action figures together with no regards for story or character? Where have I heard that before on this podcast? I think somebody said that.
Where did this come from?
Yeah. I'm not saying like that is always a problem
Are you
in
stealing
terms
ideas?
My idea is not that like that is necessarily a problem locally for your Marvel Cinematic Universe, like Robert Downey Jr. Making a reference or appearing in the Incredible Hulk, or different ideas like that when you are like having a foundation wanting to develop this further and canonize your own material. When everyone else is trying to like leech into your cinematic universe, you can't really keep track of what is exactly canon or not. Eventually, and like things have to be legitimized again later on because of that. Like they're gonna have to retcon what Morbius is and like explain it later, which is a classic comic book deal. But for the mainstream, it's always been risky. Like they had to, of course, confirm that Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio as Daredevil and Kingpin for the MCU, and go like, we swear the shows are canon, like, a million different times because they're not legitimately addressing them in their own material, and even outside of them. To clarify that Daredevil and Kingpin exist in this universe, and so does everyone else that they've interacted with. That's always been a problem to deal with when it gets so big, and like people in charge, like Kevin Feige, of like setting up this universe can only go so far, and like keeping a clipboard on this sort of thing. And like, yeah, I think you have a massive cinematic universe, you can absolutely make one, and the MCU has proven it time and time again. Trick is you have to expand your bunch of people keeping track of said universe while you do it. You can't just go like, yeah, we got this in the bag even in 19 years. Like you still gotta be careful even then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With your projects.
So overall, would you say, like, in conclusion, would you say it's like more of a good idea or more of like a bad idea?
It is a good idea when you know what you're doing. Like, you definitely should have your Iron Man levels of success before going forward with one. Any cinematic universe, like, step one, start with a success. It's like, otherwise, you start it off on a failure, that's definitely doomed to fail. In total. Like in the end, like a lot of other cinematic universes have either had messy recoveries or just failed by the third movie.
Yeah, like the Universal, what was it called, like the Dark Universe or something? Like starting off with the Mummy, and it just exploded right after that.
It started with Dracula Untold, but yeah, then they had the Mummy right after.
I'm still sad about that.
Dude,
I wanted more of that.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
It's such a shame.
Yeah, I find it funny that there's been 2 attempts to launch a cinematic universe, and they both failed, and with the same company.
It's tragic. Yeah.
Yep.
I think all you'd have to do for that too is you just need like a Jack McGee character. You literally just need like some intrepid reporter from like or some YouTuber, right? Because we're living in 2022.
Oh, yeah.
And they just have to be like
Broadcaster.
gallivanting around, like trying to investigate these different supernatural phenomenon. And
I think their whole idea of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde being the Nick Fury figure was probably a good idea, but maybe I'm biased because he's my favorite monster.
No, I love Jekyll and Hyde, and I think that Russell Crowe played them in that movie, right? If I remember.
I think it was
Russell Crowe is
Hey
also...
guys, I'm Russell Crowe. I'm fighting around the world.
He's awesome. Like I love Russell Crowe. Like.
Well, Wait, but here's the thing, right? If you have a McGee going around, do you have to have everybody say like a weird catchphrase to them? Like you have to have Peter like, Mr. McGee, don't traumatize me. You won't like me when I'm traumatized.
Isn't that just the catchphrase for all of them? Just they all simultaneously say that.
And then he hears that phrase and he just has like a Pavlovian response where he just starts rocking back and forth like, oh no, not again. No, not again. Oh,
That's
no,
how
no.
he knows you're a superhero, though, because you'll say something like that to him. Like he already knows who Bruce is. He got that right like immediately before he was ever revealed to be the Hulk. And then it just cuts to like Peter talking about being Spider-Man. He's just like, wait a fucking minute. What's happening?
That's Jack McGee's superpower to out superheroes.
His superpower is to ignore privacy laws and just down people.
Yeah.
Like a proper journalist, yeah.
Like a proper journalist. Oh my god, he's paparazzi.
Oh, that's a great idea, honestly. I love that.
But yeah, like your cinematic multiverse definitely is where things need work.
Yeah.
In many respects, because like not only are you running your own cinematic universe, which is hard enough as it is, you have to combine that with everyone else's disjointed, separate universes that they've built, and somehow make the rules of those separate worlds work with themselves. Like, it's one thing for like the minor inconsistencies of like the villains of the different Spider-Man movies, and when they go to the MCU, like how in what world does Dr. Octopus's 2004 tentacles wreck the Iron Spider suit that Thanos couldn't dent? And like, how does that work?
Doc Ock is really strong.
It's been working out.
Yeah, especially when
he
James
had the
Bond is
power
writing
of
him.
the sun in the palm of his hand.
Oh yes,
Exactly. And in the
Metal
2
tail.
seconds since he was in that movie, he just busted a move and he's at that level.
Grabbed an Infinity Stone.
Just as an aside, talking about this power of the sun in the palm of my hand, everybody likes to rag on Storm in the first X-Men movie for that whole like, what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? Yeah, my wife and I both maintain that line is actually a banger, and that people are crazy. I love that line.
I agree.
I love it.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
I think people who clown on it don't understand how the humor of it works. Because you're expecting like some sort of pithy, way to bring it back around, some sort of pun, and she's like, "No, dumbass, you're just gonna die." Like everything else. What do you?
It's really just to distract him. Like that was the whole deal. He was just an idiot.
Yeah.
What did the lightning say to the toad? Zap.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, in fact, he even looks at her like he is expecting like some major answer. Like,
Yeah.
and this might come to be useful later.
And then she's like, "No, get wrecked." Like.
Oh.
This
Would be
is
now.
Chekhov's gun. I'm firing the moment. I'm firing it right now. It's happening. It just got introduced. I'm firing it.
X-Men released in 2013 instead of 2000. That would be the one.
Oh God, yeah. Well, then they'd start like bantering back and forth. Like they
Yeah,
would stop
yeah.
the fight.
No,
and
no,
just send
yeah.
to-
It would be. Do you know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? He goes, what? He goes, actually. And Storm was like, actually, I don't know. I'm not really into toads. Have you ever seen
I
an
was
actual
asking you.
toad?
You don't know? Like I was asking you. I was hoping you had the answer. You could be useful.
And then Wolverine would just be like, get on with it.
Kill him already.
And then the music would start again. Like during that entire sequence, the music had stopped, and it's just like random, like really awkward bickering.
Get up!
I mean, that's gonna be easier for like the 2000s X-Men, mainly because like they've kept on bringing those back even into the later 2000s. So it's at least a little easier.
True.
When they bring those in for like Doctor Strange or whatever next project is gonna involve all these characters. But that's definitely something to note, to like research on the next time they do like these whole multiversal efforts. Watch all those movies, do a marathon in the office. Same thing with the TV shows, really. When recanonize those in later materials.
Oh yeah, they brought. I'm not like a big Office fan, but I know they brought. There was at least one episode where Michael Scott and the other gentleman from the UK show, they just crossed over.
Oh yeah. That was pretty cool. Yeah.
And like they definitely like even local crossovers like that to TV material, like they don't take that chance. They watch it all. Like they make references to each other that clearly knows that they like appreciate each other's work.
I think that's what it comes down to, right? And I think that's why I have such an issue with this whole concept. Is because I'm cynical and I see what they're doing. The whole advent of a cinematic universe is not some like grand creative vision. Like, wouldn't it be cool to get these characters together? I think it's really just like, if you miss a few MCU movies, unless you've like successfully broken the cycle and gotten to a place like me where you don't care. You're like, I have to see them all. I have to keep giving them my money because I might miss something. And it's like the comics with tie-in books, right? Like some of these books are flagging in sales, so we need to do a big like cross-universe crossover event, and we have to market all these tie-in books. Like nobody buys X-Men right now in like 92 or whatever, but you'll buy X-Men today because you might miss out on like Onslaught Part 1 billion. Like you got to get in there, man.
Oh my god, I forgot about Onslaught.
I'm sorry, I had to bring it back for you.
Yeah, I've heard that thing.
It definitely works a lot like the comics now in terms of that fitting, which was always the inevitable conclusion, especially for a comic book cinematic universe.
Yeah. Because I think it's all inevitable, I think is the problem, right? Like, if something goes on
not to say that the Dark Universe had become successful, they'd suddenly start filming in black and white or whatever. It'd slowly turn into the original material for either one, but still take in aspects of it, with the various tie-ins, and same thing with multiversal crossovers. Those are still a thing even in the comics as well. Mm-hmm. And a very popular concept for both companies that mainly delve into the multiverse, since I don't think the third parties do that as much. They don't have as much history to that sort of thing. They don't have the iconic staying power as Spider-Man, but a pig.
True.
My boy John Mulaney.
Fantastic.
I am excited.
It's about to get weirder. I just washed my hands. That's why they're wet.
That's all, folks.
I'm not
for that reason.
Legally.
I'm not a big Miles fan. It's true, but I did like him in Into the Spider-Verse, and I really am looking forward to the sequel, especially since Miguel looks like he's gonna be a big part of it.
Oh.
My boy
Now
Miguel!
that's interesting, right? Because for me, the first Spider-Man comic I ever read was a Miles comic, like a long time after I first got introduced to Spider-Man through the 90s show.
Yeah.
So he's probably like one of my like top 3 Spider-Men.
Yeah.
And I rag a lot on Sony for their cinematic multiverse sort of leeching that they're doing with the MCU, but really I think I definitely will give them pros on that of the Spider-Verse for sure.
That was it. But here's the thing: that was a great movie. That was the thing, right? It was a great movie, and it really wasn't. Well, I think it was marketed on the back of, you're gonna get to see all these like cool Spider-Man characters. But I think what kept people coming back was the core story surrounding Miles. Like that's what people talk about. When people talk about,
that was the main thing that centered it all around.
Well, when they talk about Spider-Verse and what made it great. Some people, they'll laugh about the. Well, okay, there's 2 things they talk about. They talk about the interactions between Miles and Peter B. Parker, which is still very much like about Miles' story in that film. And then they talk about the Rising scene. You know, the bit where he, customizes the spider suit to fit his style and does the leap of faith, and he gets the.
I think that's actually what the scene is called. It's not called Rise. I think it's called The Leap of Faith.
Yeah, it's called The Leap of Faith.
Yeah. Well, I bring it up because they did that very particular choice where they flipped the camera so that when he was falling, he wasn't falling. He was moving up, and I don't know. I that's great storytelling, and I think that's why Spider-Verse works. It's not because of all the other characters involved. It works because it's a great story. It's not about let me get
the rest of them are there for that central theme that anyone can wear the mask.
I mean, towards the end, they literally gave up on providing like backstories for like half the team. Like they literally just we don't have time. They just show up and they're all.
I mean, it's not because of not having time. It was also just because of the fact that they all were the same story with different enunciations. That's the whole point of the original comics, but also
Definitely
the story
handled
itself.
Definitely handled better than Eternals.
I still haven't watched that.
I don't recommend that you do, but if you want to watch it out of morbid curiosity, be my guest. But anyway, I am sorry, but we are going to be moving on because again, we got off topic. That's going to be the third time for today.
Three strikes, you're
spiraling. I have to play as the TVA to where I have to cut it off at some point, otherwise it's going to branch off into another podcast.
This podcast,
and then you have to kill everyone who's part of that podcast.
Exactly.
After Hatter edits this, it's still gonna be like 3 hours long.
Okay, so we're gonna go back to the wheel and we're gonna find out who gets to talk next. I'm very excited who gets to talk next.
Wheel of torture.
Sure. Look at that, Kori! You get to be the next speaker.
Heck yeah, okay. So I'm gonna focus a bit more on how I think cinematic universes handle characters, but before I go forward, I'm gonna say I'm a bit mixed. I think cinematic universes can work. For Marvel, I think it worked for a good while and then stopped. And I think for DC, it's never worked ever for even a moment. Except for in very brief, like specific instances that don't encompass entire movies. I'll get into it in a bit. But the reason I think cinematic universes don't really, at least don't work now, the way that they did a long time ago, is because when you look at all of these characters, right? The main ones we know worked within like their own solo movies because they were the beginning of this whole thing. Or in regards to like the Guardians in and of itself actually stands on its own as a film outside of the MCU. Like you can make a Guardians of the Galaxy film with that same script, but not have it be an MCU film, and I think it would work about the same. But the problem with modern movies is that because of how the MCU has been built up, it's not really feasible to make a movie that works entirely now within a cinematic universe and have it be a solo movie with a character we've never gotten to know before. Which is why it's part of the reason why I appreciate Civil War, because I've had my problems with this version of Spider-Man, but I love him overall. I think if he had like his first solo movie before he was introduced in Civil War, it would have been really weird and awkward to try to do, and it wouldn't have entirely worked. Because we haven't gotten to know this version of the character yet. But like then you have things like Shang-Chi and Eternals, a bunch of characters who, for all intents and purposes, other than some connections they have to people who have already been introduced, have never been shown before. Ever.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's a big problem. Like, Shang-Chi, I think if it were removed from the MCU, and keep in mind, I think Shang-Chi is a good movie. I haven't seen all of it, but I've seen a good deal of it, and I really, really like it. But I think it's held back by the fact that he hadn't been introduced in some other movie in the MCU, and that wouldn't be a problem if it were like the comics or like some other or if it were like a solo movie that had nothing to do with the MCU, because the comics are built on like introducing new characters all the freaking time.
There's someone secretive to the backstory of this other character, like, you know, it existed all along. Shut up.
Yeah, I mean, it's especially a big problem. Like I like especially like with the Eternals, and because they have to make excuses of like, well, if these guys are so powerful, if they're like Superman-like beings, then why didn't they join in the fight against Thanos and like everything? Oh, they can only interact like if these specific creatures come up. But it's like, but the way that they present it is like, well, they're supposed to be protecting the people of Earth, but that wasn't a big enough deal or whatnot. But you could easily remove them, and it's still like not providing any damage to the MCU, especially for like Shang-Chi, considering that in his movie he's mostly like dealing with a presence outside of Earth.
Yeah, it's like I feel like it's a really nuanced sort of topic when it comes to introducing characters, because I feel like the first Avengers movie, like if they really wanted to, they could have made an Avengers movie the very first movie in the MCU, and that would have been fine because it's not part of a cinematic universe. It's here, and it could have spun off into one. Like I've always been like the kind of person who thought that Justice League Mortal, though there are problems with it, it would have been a really good idea to do just a big Justice League film with versions of these characters we've never seen before, because then it could spin off into a cinematic universe where you could do solo movies for all these versions of the characters and people related to them. But
that's always been a risk to me, that like never pays off. Like,
well, it works in comics, just as an aside. Like if you look back at like the thing I always think of is the Authority. I don't know if you guys have ever read the Authority, but there were characters that were introduced, or well, I guess they were technically introduced in Stormwatch. I think some of them, but I haven't read much Stormwatch. I've read the Authority, but like Apollo and Midnighter. Apollo never really got a big solo series of his own, but Midnighter was introduced in team books and spun out into a very successful solo series, a couple of them actually, and now is like a big DC figure who interacts with Nightwing and shit. So I mean, like, it's worth noting that's the only example I can think of off the top of my head, to be fair. But I'm just saying, like, the precedent exists. Like, it can be done well, you know?
Yeah.
Introduce this team and then splinter them off. It can be done.
I mean, with comics, that is the main tactic, though. Like, you know, in comics, you do introduce characters in team books to then spin off into their own thing, by comparison to films where, like, you showcase some random dude in a movie that you has never heard of. I kind of have to earn that respect to that person in the movie theater by comparison.
I think it really depends. Like, I think the original Suicide Squad suffers a lot from Eternal Syndrome, where because it was part of a larger sort of universe already, and everybody knew that that's what they were trying to do initially. Because it was introducing characters that, like Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn was already super popular. Maybe not as popular, but everybody knew who fucking Harley Quinn was. Because we didn't get to know this version of the character before she was part of some big team, as somebody like who was like a Batman villain, or whatever, or like Rick Flag, or Deadshot, or any of these other characters. That, for all intents and purposes, because it's already this big universe, should have been introduced beforehand in like any of the other movies, or like make a solo Batman movie and let him be his own character, please. I mean, what am I talking about? Batman v Superman, for all intents and purposes, is just a freaking Batman movie. But
it's funny
like that was the big mistake both for the Suicide Squad and for the Justice League themselves.
But like for me,
there's like Batman versus Superman, like especially like the way they featured it, because like you can tell that Zack Snyder's like very biased like for Batman, but even the way they advertised it made it seem like a Batman movie featuring Superman. And like with the Harley Quinn thing, like the whole thing like branches off of her origins, that she's in like Gaga like love for the Joker, to where like she's blinded by everything else because she's just so in love with him. And then like when they break up and like she finds her own independence, that's what makes a character. But they deal with that like so fast. Like the first movie she's introduced in, she's in love with the Joker, but she's not interacting with the Joker. And then literally the next movie she's in, she's broken off from the Joker, and they're trying to make it seem like she's already found her independence by being in another group.
Like with a film just being 2 hours compared to like big team comic runs, like you can't pull this. Like not really.
Yeah, and they're trying to advertise it like as like a superhero group movie, like in Birds of Prey. But even like when I went to the movies, like they got like so annoyed like with the title. They said, "You know what? Fuck it, it's Harley Quinn. It's the Harley Quinn movie, and it just so happens to have Birds of Prey."
Yeah. And they tried to give it that big pithy, the Birds of Prey. Or the Emancipation of Harley Quinn, or I think it's longer than that. I think it's just a few words.
Which is why, like, they later just changed it to Harley Quinn : Birds of Prey. Like,
yeah,
they gave up at that point.
Yeah.
Because the Birds of Prey literally show up at the end of the movie.
Yeah, and they're nothing like their characters in the comics either.
Oh, the way they did my girl Cassie. I can't.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I was telling my wife liked Birds of Prey. And then she came home, and I started telling her about, like, how Renee Montoya was, like, one of the first prominent lesbian characters in DC Comics, and she later has a really wholesome friendship with Vic Sage, and when he dies, she becomes the Question, and she's awesome. Or the backstory of Cassie, and how, like, like that whole thing, and she's like, oh my god, why didn't they make that movie? I'm like, I know!
Yeah, that really pissed me off. Like, I mean, I enjoy Birds of Prey. I mean, I can find some fun in it, especially like with the performances of
that's how I feel about Suicide Squad.
But I really don't like the interpretation of like most of the characters. Like Black Canary, I don't like that she's not a martial artist, and it's already the second Black Canary. I mean, technically she's the main Black Canary, is the second Black Canary, but the point is like she's not anything like she is in the comics. Cassandra Cain is definitely not making her way to Batgirl or Black Bat. And the Question, they introduced the second question before the first question, and everybody likes the first question. That's what the one that they're familiar with the most.
Renee Montoya though was a cool question. They just didn't do a lot with her. But I'll tell you, it was a missed opportunity. They could have had Renee Montoya be like a vigilante in the movie. They could have just introduced the Question in that movie. Yeah, it would have been cool.
Not just that, but they also make her old. It's like, well, they make it seem like she can like toss like this guy that's like 3 times her size, but like she's like what, in like near her 70s? It's like, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, they were trying to do like the girl power thing. You're not meant to think about it too much. You're just supposed to watch some girls kicking ass. Like, I can respect that. I know, but it
took me out of the movie, like seeing like this older woman to where she literally has wrinkles like on her face and on her neck, and like she's able to take down like these really huge guys just because she's in a superhero team that's just all girls.
Sure. Yeah. You're about to get canceled, buddy. I hope you.
We're all the whole podcast is gonna get canceled. I thought this was our goal.
The channel's gonna get real.
The final thing to be canceled by Twitter before Elon Musk buys it.
and then reinstates all our free speech because he is a glorious free speech warrior. Elon Musk is. Oh my god, I'm like smothered by my own sarcasm.
It'd be like X-Men Resurrection after they tried to kill off the X-Men with Inhumans.
Yeah. Man, we could do a whole podcast just on the snide politics of trying to poison the well for the movie rights. Yeah. Oof.
I can't.
But basically, what I'm trying to like get at is early cinematic universes benefit more from the idea of solo movies, but once you get too far in, like once you're 20 movies in, you can't do solo movies without introducing them in other movies first, or else people are going to go into these movies knowing it's a cinematic universe movie and expecting it to be about somebody they already know, and they'll go in and watch Shang-Chi and just be like, what the fuck? What's happening? Where am I? Am I dying?
Where's Captain America?
I need to see America's ass to live.
Where's Iron Man? He's dead. He's what?
It's funny.
I don't remember anything now.
It's funny that you mentioned that because like Michael Douglas, like when he was like playing Hank Pym, like he was like all shocked to like find out like where his character was going for Ant-Man and the Wasp, is because like he admitted like I don't watch these movies. It's like why would I watch these movies, especially the ones that I'm in? And it's like, well, there's like a huge span there, buddy.
That's what the
it's like
writers for, right?
it's gonna be changing. He's like, yeah, that's what the writers are for. I just read the lines. You see, if I'm being honest, I'm here to collect a paycheck.
I'm here to say the line, become the Ant-Man. Like ants.
Tell everyone about Pym particles and ants.
Do you realize how important the pin particle? Hey, where's my paycheck? Okay,
I can say the line now. I got it.
Michael Douglas for the rest.
So sorry, we spiraled off again. Gotta play TVA once again.
Prune.
Reset the timeline. Okay, so Kori, what
I'm saying is that superhero movies are really good.
That was what it's going down to.
Jeez, Kori, why'd you take so long to make that simple point? What's wrong with you? I don't understand.
Dude, we don't have
I'm a superhero fan. That's why it took so long. It took me 12 tie-in issues and 20 extra issues and
You become
all these other
superhero.
One free comic book day issue.
Of course.
all these other assholes kept coming in and providing their insights and stuff, and it just derailed the whole narrative. Yeah. Oof.
Damn, editorial mandate.
Oh.
God damn it. Focus on it, you bitch. I got one more date.
Yeah, I was just going to make that joke. I was literally just going to be like, Hatter's over here, like, you all stay in line or I'm going to Casada you.
No.
Yeah, my entire point got erased from the timeline. I live with Aunt May again. Harry's alive.
Yeah, this entire episode never happened, actually.
Who's that kid over there? He looks like
my boyfriend. He's fading away. He's gone.
No.
Okay, so overall, in conclusion, what do you think?
I think cinematic universes are good, but they need to start to adhere to their own formula more once they get farther in, because otherwise people are going to start watching movies that they think are part of a cinematic universe, but have almost no connection to anything else going on, and that'll be off-putting, and it will ruin the effect that the cinematic universe is supposed to have.
Oh yeah, that definitely felt like that with like Morbius, because they kept like advertising that Michael Keaton wasn't in it. He's not even in the movie until like the credits pop up. But yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point. I agree. It's something that they have to take pay very close attention to, especially like the way that they're marketing their movies that do actually tie in with their own universe and the ones that don't. So. But thank you very much. We're going to be speed running a little bit because we're going to be reaching like 2 hours like after Christopher speaks. So we're going back to the wheel and we're going to find out if Christopher today is the least or the most, since he is the last.
Hopefully the least. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. I think it would
reveal the masochist.
I think it would be the first time if you actually were the least.
All right. Let's do it.
Today, it looks like that day is not that day.
Oh,
you are the last and the most. So
I'm
please
quitting.
tell us.
I'm done. I'm not even. All right.
Where's my agent?
If I'm not the least, then what am I?
Exactly. I don't even know who I am anymore. Okay. So I have this is something I've been thinking about a while. Like, this is a really good topic. I love this a lot, and I'm gonna try to keep mine as condensed as possible. But I feel like I'm probably also gonna go off on tangents, so I apologize in advance. But I feel like, to put simply, if good, good. If bad, bad. You know, very wise philosopher said that. Yeah, I don't know who it is, but trust me. You trust me. I'm a history major. I know these things.
Something of a philosopher myself.
Yeah, exactly.
But not a philosophy major.
No,
I feel like pointing that out.
Yeah.
I'm something of a historian myself.
Exactly.
I'm something of a comic fan myself.
No, you're not. Nobody actually reads comics. What the fuck?
No.
Comics? What?
That's all I need.
Paper? What's paper? I have an iPad.
Reading? Gross.
Yeah.
I watch movies exclusively.
Hey,
Everyone knows.
You don't want to throw shade on Tim Burton here, okay?
The best Spider-Man comic isn't a comic. It's Spider-Man and his amazing friends.
That is true. I can
Okay, so please continue on, Christopher, before we keep getting distracted.
Yes, I feel like if something is done well, then it's gonna be great. I feel like that's sort of a given. But if it is, done poorly, then it won't end up very well. Like, I feel like the MCU is a great example of this. Like, especially in the beginning, like, it's done very well. That maybe there's like perhaps some hit or misses that I still love the first phase, but I feel like not all of the movies are like the absolute like strongest MCU movies we've seen. But
Incredible Hulk is good. Change my mind.
Exactly, yeah. Incredible Hulk is great.
Oh, I agree. No, the first two MCU movies were the best ones.
Oh,
hands down. Yeah, Iron Man and Incredible Hulk, and then
amazing.
It should have ended.
Yeah, that's the universe. Thanks for watching.
Yeah.
Universe where only the Hulk and Iron Man exist.
And sometimes they fight. Yeah, so much better.
Let's do that. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the MCU throughout its runtime, I feel like for the most part has been pretty great. Like, maybe say what you want, maybe there's been some stumbles here and there, and maybe maybe its course isn't going in the direction that everyone wants it to go. But I feel like it's it's been a shining example. Like, it's pretty much the example like when a company is looking like, we want to make a cinematic universe. Wait, the MCU, look at it. They usually go towards the MCU. That, like you said, I think it was it Valiant, or I don't know who said it, but talking about like the monster universe and stuff like that. Like, back in the day, that there are examples of cinematic universes in the past, but this feels like definitely like the most like sort of the landmark, like the really big defining one, perhaps, that's at least for modern times. So I feel like it's like the prime example of like how to do a cinematic universe, if you will. It depends on who you ask, but and
well, I think that also attributes to like the announcement of it, because like back in the day, like with the movie monsters of Universal, nobody really had like ambitions, from what I understand, like ambitions of making like a whole cinematic universe. But like when Marvel did it, they're saying like, okay, so this is the project that we want to do, and we're gonna shoot for it. So here are like the line of movies that's gonna happen, and if it's all successful, you get an Avengers movie. And I think that's, I think it was just laid down to advertisement, because Universal, they were like from what I understand, they were like, what's the next big movie we could do? It's like, well, we get Dracula again and pit him against Frankenstein's monster. Okay, people seem to like them. Let's just do it. Okay, yep, just go film it.
Yeah, that's true. That's there's like this build up, like you can really feel it, especially like in just Iron Man, like right at the end with Nick Fury and stuff like that. There's like this build up to something which is really exciting, that really makes you want to come back and see how it all shapes up, like who all is involved in the Avengers and stuff like that. Like, and this gets carried on too, like throughout the MCU as well. That once the Avengers are assembled, we have the build up towards the Infinity Stones. So we see them here and there, of course, in the first phase, but it's really until like the second phase, specifically with like Thor: Dark World, and even more specifically with Guardians of the Galaxy, where we get a bigger focus on the Infinity Stones. We can see where the story is going with, of course, Thanos and stuff like that. Seeing Thanos before then too, really sets the course in motion. You can see where they're going, but it's going to be fun to see what all happens, and setting up all the storylines and plot lines, like Tony and Cap constantly like bickering and stuff like that. That's probably gonna go somewhere, right? And it does, of course. So like when things are set up right, and when it has like, say, the right person behind it, the right leading voice or voices, I feel like it can go well. But then when things can just go off the wall sometimes, and like, you know, just these cinematic universes could possibly have great starts, or maybe not. And you know, it's just like, if it doesn't have a great start, then it'll probably just, you know, die, because people like, oh, kind of movie connected to this movie? That movie sucked. I don't want to see a movie connected to that. Get that out of here. But you know, like if something's like really like messy and there's not like any specific like course they're going, then it can like, you know, it doesn't tend to work out. Like, if you will, you know, the DCEU, it feels like there's a lot of great stuff there. I like a lot of the movies, honestly. But I feel like the connectivity like just really isn't there. Like, there's not really too many connecting threads. Like, there's perhaps like some connecting threads with, say, Wonder Woman and Batman and Superman, like the Justice League. There's definitely connecting tissue there. But you know, just like all these other guys too, that there's references to other characters and stuff like that too. Of course, with Shazam and Superman, which I'd love to see Shazam in the Justice League. That'd be awesome. But you know, there's just like you know, with the Harley Quinn movie, with Birds of Prey, and with the Suicide Squad, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. You know, it's just kind of there. Like, they work as solo movies and stuff like that, or you know, ensemble solo movies, if you will. But there's not really like anything connecting them either to like the larger scale of the DCU, which I don't think is a problem either. I think they're great because of that. But yeah, it's just that I feel like with a cinematic universe, there has to be like some sort of like connecting thread that, you know, we can have random stories here and there. Like, you know, the comics, they don't all just like come together to make just this one narrative, that they all are a bunch of these different stories. And even like in the solo movies too, they're all, perhaps some of them are more focused on pushing the narrative, the mainline narratives of, say, introducing all of the Avengers and having the Avengers team up, as well as, of course, introducing the Infinity Stones and the idea of Thanos going after them. But even still, like, all of them, like, still sort of stand on their own as well. Like, they're like they're a larger part of a puzzle, but they're also, like, each of them, for the most part, tells its own story that doesn't actually really, that can impact the universe, but doesn't actually, like, impact sort of the grander narrative. Like, say with Iron Man 3, like, the Extremis stuff, you know, that it just happens in that movie and it's done, which is great. I think, you know, it's great to have these individual stories that if you're just making a movie just to have a sequel or just to like add to something, I feel like, you know, that isn't quite the right way to do it. But like a balance between pushing the narrative forward as well as giving these characters their own individual stories to really round them out and to develop them more, or just give them something interesting to do while all this other stuff is going on, I think is important.
Oh yeah, that's a very good point. So overall, would you say like do you think it's a good idea, or do you think it's more of like a bad idea?
Yeah, I gotta say, I guess it depends on the context, like what exactly the plan is for, you know, the universe and stuff. But I feel like that I too, like when I was a kid, when, you know, the Raimi movies and the X-Men movies and stuff like that, Fantastic Four, all of that jazz was coming out. I was loving it. I loved you know, watching all those movies as a kid. But I always really hope too that we get to see more connections there with superheroes and stuff too. Like, you know, like in the comics, you know, you see these characters pop up here and there and stuff. It's really awesome, like seeing, you know, cameos or, you know, team ups or whatever, or, you know, teams even getting formed. So I guess it depends on like what exactly the goal of the universe is, or like what the goal of the story is, whether it needs a large universe or not. Because I feel like going back to what you guys said about like I guess stakes and like individual superhero stories, that I feel like there's a benefit to having solo movies that don't actually connect to any larger universe, because the stakes for those movies are pretty high. Because like if Spider-Man is the only superhero in that universe, no one else can do his job. So when he stops being Spider-Man for a while in Spider-Man 2, there's nobody else to pick up the slack or anything. He's like, I don't have to be Spider-Man. Iron Man, you know, he'll handle everything. It's fine. No.
Yeah.
And also,
well, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Especially like in the movie, they emphasize that he kind of has to be Spider-Man, because like everything's going to shit like once Spider-Man ends up missing, because he, like, oh my god, I think that's like the movie to where a superhero gets like the most punishment of just existing. Absolutely. Because he's constantly punished as Spider-Man, he's constantly punished as Peter Parker, and especially when he's not Spider-Man, like he gives up just like for a little bit, because he's always reminded that there are people out there that need help, or people that need saving in general, or criminals that need to be stopped. And
I mean, it literally gets thrown in his face, right? He has a moment of like trying to be a hero again, and he's like, "Oh, I saved this little girl," and then what's the first thing he hears? Some poor soul on the 4th floor got trapped. You know, never made it out. Like, damn,
Poor soul got trapped. The fourth.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, right in his face, right there. Like, dude, shut up! Like, why would you say that with that guy in earshot? What are you doing?
I always confused. I always got like confused, like as a kid. Is like, is he saying that? I always thought that he was saying that like as an experience of like as a fireman. It's like, oh, I never managed to get this like one guy out, and like Peter Parker like learns from that guy's. He's like, nope. Turns out that if he was Spider-Man, he could have saved everyone. But looks like he only saved one person. So yes, sucks.
Exactly.
Well, no, that's what the point of the scene was. Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, he can't have a break. He can't have like I did a good thing. You didn't do enough.
Exactly.
Like you could.
Yeah.
So, sometimes I think that those movies did just agree with J. Jonah Jameson the whole time.
Oh, honestly, yeah.
Spider-Man was a hero. He was a thief.
Yeah. I want him strung up by his web.
What Spider-Man?
My favorite thing though about those movies are the moments when J. Jonah Jameson shows like integrity and like moles.
Yeah, like when he stands up for Peter, it's like, I don't know, he just mails me the pictures or whatever.
Immediately, he barely knows this kid, and he's like, "Screw you! I'm not telling you shit." Like, don't just. Jonah's always cool when he eventually comes around in a given universe.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I love J. Jonah Jameson.
Oh yeah.
I wish they did that for Flash Thompson more.
Yeah.
Supposed to be a decent guy who's just an asshole to Peter because Peter's also an asshole.
It did happen, and I'll tell you, it's called The Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, he did that for one scene.
Yeah,
the best
and then he's gone.
Oh my god. The best adaptation of Flash Thompson is in Spectacular Spider-Man, and I will always adhere to that.
Oh yeah. Because they delve into that whole like he's actually kind of a dick to you, Peter, because he feels like you kind of ghosted him. Actually, like he feels like the wronged party. I thought that was so interesting in Spectacular.
Yeah, it's literally like, Peter, you gotta understand. Before you became Spider-Man, you were like the biggest asshole, know-it-all dick in the school. You know that, right? That is you.
People talk about the Ditko comics, and they're like, "Man, Spider-Man like was this loser nerd who could barely talk to girls." No. Peter shot his shot all the time before he got powers. He didn't understand other people. He wasn't this weak, like, stammering nerd. He just didn't know how to communicate.
This is a dark joke that I really want to bring up because I think it's really funny. It's the idea that people, I saw this on Twitter a while back, and it's one of my favorite things to tell people when I talk about Spider-Man. It's, everybody likes to say that Peter was like the sniveling, like, nerd, always getting bullied, but then anytime Flash would just say something mildly mean to him, he'd look at him and under his breath go, "Kill yourself." Like,
no, I love Peter Parker, and that is absolutely my interpretation.
Yeah.
So it's why
It's funny looking back on that now because once you actually do more research on Peter Parker and you find out he's actually like an asshole, it's weird watching that in like the Raimi trilogy because people actually treat him like everywhere around him, like except for like Harry and except for like Norman Osborn.
Yeah. The world is bullying him.
Yeah, the whole world's bullying, and it's like, why? It's like, what did this guy do to piss off everybody?
Yeah,
and,
it's like that's one of my things about like the Raimi movies. It started a thing. I feel like where everybody started to like look at Peter like he was like the victim of people bullying him, when in reality he was just a dick to everyone around him.
We're dumping on him.
The only one
problem
who doesn't hate him is the other vindictive science major of that universe.
The problem was back in the day. I don't feel like he was inherently like a bad dude. I think the problem was he had trouble connecting with people, and they kind of treated him like a weirdo. And if you go back and look, Flash was a dick to him.
Comics. But it's
like he was mistreated.
Like a double-edged sword. Like like they were a dick to each other.
It was a cyclical thing. Well, but only one of them had actual power, though. That was the thing. Like the jock is the one with the big social circle. Yeah. Who will start mocking you for even talking to puny Parker. You know what I mean? So, like, nowadays, the nerd would be the one with all the social cred, because nerds are cool.
Oh, yeah.
But back in the 60s...
Yeah, but... I think that's the thing, though. When you write, like, if you want to write a really good Spider-Man story that's accurate to the comics, I'm not saying you have to write it like this. I just mean, like, if you really want it to be accurate to the comics, the idea of him being like a total dick before he gets his powers is like kind of crucial to like the with great power comes great responsibility thing. He's a dick because he doesn't have a sense of, if I have the power to do it, if it's good, I need to do it. And
these people are beneath me.
Yeah, it's these people are beneath me. I have the power to beat them up. I have the power to do this, this, and this. I can do that if I really want to. And then his uncle dies, and he's like, oh shit, I've been a horrible person. And it's why I really like the first Amazing Spider-Man film, because Peter is an asshole.
Oh yeah.
Like, he's a piece of
skateboarding in the middle of a hallway.
Yeah.
Taking pictures of girls.
Oh my god, if
in the
somebody
corner.
were doing that at my high school, I'd like look at them and be like, ew, what the
What do you
Get away from
like
me.
not even with his phone, like he's got the fucking DSLR out, like he's just flat out like, woo, look at this. So
Calling people
and,
by their first names in public.
yeah, put him down, Eugene.
Put him down, Eugene! No, that's another thing that I think is accurate to the comic, just using his first name like that. That's the funniest
Like a
thing
weapon.
ever.
Although, to be fair, Flash was straight up tormenting that kid. So props to Peter for being like, you know, he knew what was gonna happen, and he just took it like a champ. He's like, nah, I'd rather me get kicked in the ribs than, you know, this poor kid.
Oh no, I want to talk about this. One of my favorite comics of all time is one of the very first times that Peter interacts with any of the Fantastic Four. It's like the second time they do.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Peter just hates the Human Torch. He just crashes his party and just attacks him really blatantly. Like, what the fuck, Peter? What did he do?
Well, he was 16. He was written like an actual petulant child with godlike strength.
I mean, really, like, with Iron Man, I think my favorite crossover moment is just him beating on the entire X-Men, which really...
in Secret Wars? Yes! So
once they get
glorious!
on over into the MCU, that should be how they introduce them.
Well, they kind of
People that got
a
their
little
butts
bit.
kicked by Spider-Man.
They had a moment kind of like that in talking about cinematic universes. See, I can talk about this because it's relevant. With the airport scene. With Bucky and the Falcon and
I
Spider-Man,
suppose
like
it's their way
absolutely,
of doing that for the MCU.
yeah,
was,
like he
for them.
absolutely stomps them, and they're like, "What just happened?"
Yeah.
What is happening right
Beating
now?"
on the people that the Russo brothers think are the most powerful people of this universe, which are Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, well, which is I talk about this all the time with Spider-Man. Is people will kind of deride him and be like, he's a street level character. He's just, in quotation marks, a street level character because he chooses.
Because he chooses to be. Yeah,
Yeah, that's literally it. He chooses to be.
It's like people need to realize that that it's canon.
Yeah, I could punch a
Peter's
meteor if
probably,
he
like,
wanted
the smartest
to.
person.
He chooses to.
Well, not that
defend your
hardcore,
puny neighbor.
but
Like it's canon that Peter is like one of like the 5 smartest people on the planet at any given moment. Like, what the fuck? Like he could make a time machine if he wanted to. We know this. He's probably tried.
being a Peter Parker fan is to lead a punished existence, where Marvel will just continually shit on your favorite character and try to replace him all the time as well.
And the fans will always shit on your favorite character because they'll always be like, "Oh, he's part of a team. He can't be part of a team." It's like, yes, he can, but he has to get mad at everyone at all times. That's what he has to do.
Listen, the time he threw Wolverine out a window was completely valid, though. I don't know if you guys.
I mean, I would too.
Yeah.
I would throw Wolverine out a window. Wolverine's just kind of a jerk.
He's like talking smack about Mary Jane and like, why is she with a loser like you?
Yeah,
and then Peter throws him out a supposedly unbreakable window because he knows he'll survive. And everyone's like, that was valid. Like, I don't give a shit.
But that also caused one of the single most fucked up things that has ever happened to Peter in his entire life. Where he's like, oh, Wolverine's getting back up. I'm going to punch him in the face at full force because I know nothing will happen. And he turns around and accidentally punches like a normal person and kills her instantly.
Oh,
like,
yeah, that thing. Yeah.
That's fucked.
Yeah. Peter, you accidentally killed a person. Well, you know.
I think it
sucks.
With great power comes great responsibility, I guess.
Oh, no.
Responsibility, that's biased. I'm taking a break on this one. Pop.
Oh no! Whoops!
Okay.
We're outside the states. It's allowed.
Okay.
All right.
Looks like the TVA is coming back in. We gotta reset the timeline once again.
Spider.
In conclusion, Christopher.
So yeah, I feel like that if the stakes, like, it's really hard, like, having a cinematic universe where you have, like, such powerful people. Like, can you imagine, like, if the Dark Knight trilogy was, like, part of a larger universe, and, like, you have the Dark Knight Rises, and just, like, oh, Superman's, like, it's like, wait, Superman just comes on, he just kills, he just beats up Bane, and just, you know, stops the bomb, and boom, there you go, it's all over. He just takes out the stake completely, so I feel like that's, you know, if a creator wants to focus on, like, one character, like, a small, specific set of characters, and, like, have, like, that one character maybe to focus, like, you know, say Batman, then I feel like, you know, just having, like, a solo series, or, like, even just, like, even a one-off just solo movie or whatever, solo story, that I feel like that's the way to go, because you have to constantly juggle all these characters, like, you have to explain why they can't do this, like, oh, the world's about to end, wait, where's Captain Marvel, why can't you do anything, hey, where's War Machine, what happened to this guy, you know, so it's really hard to, like, to balance all of that. You have to constantly keep these characters busy, or have an explanation as to why they can't do certain things, because, you know, yeah, there's these big threats, and it's all up to this one character, and if there's other characters in that universe, it's kind of hard to justify that, unless if they're, you know, they're busy, you know, kind of like with Far From Home, when they had to explain, you know, Thor is off-world, you know, don't talk about Captain Marvel, stuff like that, so...
Never talk about her.
never mention her name ever.
If you mention her name, a whole bunch of right-wing YouTubers will, like, make like
Oh
thousands
no,
of
not
videos.
the quartering! Not the quartering!
I'm sorry. His name is the Quivering. Let's not, you know.
No, I like to call him the cunt.
No, that's fair. That's valid.
You see, I think that's interesting because I think a really good way to do the whole there's a big threat that one character is the center of is to have that kind of mindless army trope pop up, but have it be a thing where the main character isn't actually dealing with it, like mention like, oh shit, Iron Man's off to the side here doing this. That's why he isn't helping you with the main part. He has to like defend like downtown, like Manhattan, like from everything else. You have to go to the actual spaceship and fight the actual warlord. He's just kind of down there keeping like the peace here. You have to do the important thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's
or like that's why I think that's why I actually think a lot of things would benefit from, like, especially now that like Daredevil is back in the canon. I think a lot of those kinds of like, oh, none of these other heroes can help right now will benefit from the fact that there are more street level heroes, because then you have like any like Skrull invasion, Daredevil and like the Punisher are probably down there beating the fuck out of these guys, and like Bruce Banner's up in like space actually dealing with the problem. They're just doing damage control to make sure that you have time to do it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
that's a good point. Yeah, I think it was.
Which a couple of movies have done by now, like Far From Home. Like a lot of different films have used established details to like cover where everyone is.
Yeah, I think that would like break the immersion if you didn't have your street level characters doing damage control. Like every single superhero has to show up onto like this one planet when like there's a whole threat that's like spread across like the entire galaxy, and they're all
Iron Man shows up to stop a mugging.
Do you know what the best example of this is? And I may be misremembering. It's the bit from I think like the X-Men animated series where like a bunch of characters had like off-screen cameos, like helping out.
Yep.
Yeah.
I remember
was
that.
the original Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, you're right.
Spider-Man's hand has a cameo. It's pretty great.
That was the best cameo ever, honestly.
Oh my
to be fair, it's one of the best.
I was in a TV show. You see me?
That's me. That's my hand.
It's me. Oh, hey, May, look, it's me.
That's my hand.
Oh wait, crap! Secret identity. Ah no!
Oh no, it's happening.
Too excited.
We need to go to the
Oh no! All of these people are suddenly dying as he's choking every single one.
Oh no! How could this happen?
Yeah. Oh no! Yeah. The real reason
no
one has figured out that Batman is Bruce Wayne is because Alfred kills them all.
Alfred's looking out for him.
Alfred, how many people have you killed in order to keep my good name?
But Master Bruce, I've told you not to ask me that.
It's all important, Master.
Master Bruce, do you think I've kept count after all both these years.
Yes,
My death count rivals that of the Joker.
Master Bruce, eat a biscuit. They were going to make me a supervillain at one point in the mid-90s, and then that story never saw the light of day.
I had to kill people somehow.
Yeah. Oh.
I need
by
to
the
get
way,
my dicks, Master Bruce.
that almost happened. By the way, there is a backup story in a Batman. I think a Batman comic or a Robin comic in the '90s, where it introduces. It introduces this new villain called Skullduggery, and he is like this man in his skull mask, talking about how he orchestrated a bunch of crimes to look like crimes from other Batman villains, but actually they were far deadlier than people would have realized, and it was me all along. And he's monologuing to himself about how. You know, when you find out that your closest ally and your dearest friend, the person closest to you, has actually been plotting against you from the very beginning, it will break you like nothing else ever has. And they never did anything with that character. It was never revealed who he actually was. But there were some articles where they talked about it, and all that was said was that it was axed because we realized that if it came out who that actually was, like, fans would riot in the streets. There would be no coming back from it. It was decided to be. So it's just heavily implied that it was Alfred.
Wasn't it revealed at some point in like by Grant Morrison that like Alfred was a villain for a bit, and during that like brief period where he was just dead, like.
Oh no! I mean, Alfred's dead. Oh no! I mean, Alfred is dead right now. He still hasn't come back, unless you're talking about.
Yeah, I know, but like it was like his first death. Like when Grant Morrison was writing Batman, it was like everything is canon at all times.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know that they did something to where like they made like Alfred like actually was the Joker just so Batman could exist. Like
those Neil Gaiman's Elseworld.
Yep. That was the
great comic.
whatever happened, or Batman R.I.P. I think.
Yeah. No, it's whatever happened to the King Crusader.
Crusader, my bad. Yep.
Anyways, TVA.
So looks like this is going to be our last visit from the TVA because they want us to leave now. Unfortunately, we've already hit 2 hours.
It's a sacred time on people.
So much content.
Wow, the podcast is over. Wow.
And next week, we're going to get canceled by Twitter before it's bought out. We did it, gentlemen.
Yeah.
We did it, boys.
We accomplished all our goals
Podcast is
today.
no more.
Yeah. That Moon Knight drama is never going to come out.
Oh, yeah. I don't have to do any more work.
Let's go. Let's go.
All right. Well, thank you very much for listening. And just in case, if you guys, anybody listening, if you ever want to be a guest on the show, you don't have to be a writer, you don't have to be a producer, an actor, or anything. You just want to come and talk Marvel, come and contact us. I'll leave a contact mention in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube.
Yeah.
And so, thank you very much for listening to another fine edition on the happy 616th Marvel family. I'm still working on it. I've been your host, the Funny Hatter. Alongside me has been Victor, the X-Men, Valiant Shadow, Kori, the writer for Fantastic Four, and Christopher Z, because apparently I can't get them in order to introduce and outroduce themselves.
Never works
Never.
out.
Yeah.
Nope. We can never get them in order.
But I can get them to say bye. So bye for now, and hopefully you'll listen to the next episode. So bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.